always wanted to think that I was an alien. I used to think when I was young that I was adopted by my mother because they found me and a spaceship let me off. I was from a different planet. I wanted to be from a different planet really bad. And every night I used to talk to my real parents and my real family in the skies. I knew that there were thousands of other alien babies dropped off. They're all over the place, and I've met quite a few of them. It's just something that I've always liked to toy with in my mind. It was really fun to pretend that, you know. There's some special reason for me to be here, and I feel really homesick all the time, and so do the other aliens. And I only have a chance to come across like a handful of other aliens throughout the rest of my life. Eventually, one day, we'll find out what we're supposed to do. Up until I was about 8 years old, I had an extremely happy childhood, a really good one with a totally affectionate mother, and she was totally supportive in helping me do art. I was always drawing and reading, and she was really into supporting me, and I had a great time, a really good childhood during that time. I had everything in focus. I knew exactly what I was going to do, and nothing could stop me. And I knew that I could do whatever I wanted because the world was really small, and things just happened to lay down before me with luck, and I didn't have any problem. There were no obstacles in my life at that time. I was never really a bad kid, but I did things like, you know, I would take a 7-Up can and fill it full of rocks and stand behind the fence and throw it at cars. I had this thing about cops too. I had this saying called corn on the cops, the cops are coming, they're gonna kill you. I used to take those cans and throw them at cop cars whenever I saw them. And every time I saw a cop, I'd start singing that at them and pointing at them and telling them that they were evil. And my Aunt Mary, I guess you would call her an aspiring musician. She was in a lot of bar bands in Aberdeen, and she's definitely the most helpful person in my life as far as music, because she gave me an electric Hawaiian guitar and an amplifier when I was like 8 years old, and she was the one responsible for giving me the Beatles records. And she gave me a bass drum, and I'd strap that on and walk around with the Elmer Fudd hat on and my dad's tennis shoes and beat on the drum, walk around the neighborhood singing Beatles songs. When I was a lot younger, I thought for sure I could be a rock star. There was no problem because I was so hyperactive and the world was in my hands. I could do anything. You know, I knew that I could be the president if I wanted to, but that was a stupid idea. You know, I'd rather be a rock star. I didn't understand my environment, what was lying ahead, what kind of alienation I would feel when I was a teenager, because I thought of Aberdeen as like any other city in America. I thought they were all the same, you know, everyone just got along and there wasn't nearly as much violence as there actually was, and it would be really easy. And I thought the United States was about as big as my backyard, you know, so it would be no problem to drive all over the place and play in a rock band and be on the cover of magazines and stuff. So I had the conditioning at an early stage, but then when I started, you know, becoming this manic depressive at 9 years old, I didn't look at it that way.
I've always felt like my generation was the very last innocent generation, you know, when there was television that wasn't violent. We didn't have cable. We had Sesame Street and Speed Racer and H.R. Puff and stuff, and that's it. Everything was a total fantasy. Everything was just very basic and just medieval compared to things nowadays. Kids are so advanced and expected to be so much more advanced than they are. I was spanked all the time. My dad would, in my social situations when we're at restaurants or something, if I had spilled a glass of water or something, he'd get me in a headlock and dig his knuckles into my head or smack me in the face. I never understood that, why a parent would be so embarrassed or so intimidated by what other people would think of you in a restaurant just because your child spilled something on accident, to have to punish them for having an accident. That's a weird psychological trick to play on a child, because I still put myself down and cuss myself out for knocking things over. I get really upset with myself because I've been conditioned to not spill things. Don't have accidents, don't have human error. Everything's supposed to be perfect at all times, you know. Fuck him for that.
He was a tally man at Mayor Brothers Wood Mill. So basically he just walked around all day and counted logs. His idea of father and son day out would be to take me to work on Saturdays and Sundays, and I would sit in his office while he went and counted logs. It was a quite exciting weekend. I drew pictures and made prank phone calls. And then I would go out into the warehouse where they stacked 2x4s, you know, really high up into the air, and I would pretend I was being chased or chasing robbers and cops, and pretend to be Superman or any other superhero. That was about as exciting as it got.
There's no one but myself to blame.
Then I would take a nap in the van and listen to Queen, News of the World on 8-track over and over again and drain the battery on the van. And then we'd be stuck. That happened a few times. We'd get stuck after work with a dead battery because I listened to Queen too much. I've never felt like I've really had a father, you know? I've never had a father figure who I could share things with, and it's hard to remember anything up until I was 7 years old, and that was the time that I was actually living with him, and he was my dad, and I had a mother and father, and after that I lived with him for a short time, and then he got married, and after that I was, you know, like one of the last things of importance on his list. If it was me, if I was in that situation with Courtney and Frances, I still, for the rest of my life, would go out of my way to try to contact Frances and try to have a relationship with her and share things with her, you know, and he just gave up. I just wanted to know that I don't have anything against him anymore, that I just don't want to talk to him because I don't have anything to share with him, you know. I'm sure that would probably really upset him, but that's just the way it is.
All these kids my age found themselves asking the question at the same time, why in the fuck are my parents getting divorced? What's going on? All my other friends' parents are getting divorces too. Something's not right. Somehow, the way that our parents were brought up isn't the way it's supposed to be. They fucked up somehow. They're living in a fantasy world, so they must have done something wrong. They got a divorce. They had to sow their oats, just like my mom did. You know, they had to start drinking when they were 30, and really confused and going and fucking up over and over again with raising their children as teenagers because they don't understand the things that those kids need. I mean, I remember all my friends asking that same question, like 7 years old, and it's really a necessary time to be asking that, you know? But it was just a plague. It was a total disease.